Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friends MG, Jeffrey Hacker, and they are the co-hosts of the Decode Dune podcast. I don't know where my fucking mental whatever, but MG, Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us. This is cool. This is awesome.
Yes. And I kind of wanted to turn the tables on you guys, because you guys podcast and break down some cool shit and whatever. So I was just like, hey, you guys are going to be the guests. Kick your feet up. Let's do that shit, because all of the excellent and expounding things that you do with your own podcast, I was just like, well, let's flip it and let's let you just talk about that.
Okay. So wait, you were just going to just talk about the podcast?
Yeah.
So, all right. So there was a moment that Jeff was maybe not going to be able to make it, and I was trying to play out the idea of like, what would I say? I was like, well, I'll summarize my relationship with Jeff, and then I'll say that broadly speaking, the podcast is, I would argue, his brainchild, in the sense that, so it goes like this. I'll just vamp if it's okay. Interrupt me, because I talk a lot. Yeah. So I moved to LA. I wanted to be an actor. I guess I still have some aspirations, although haven't had a lot of time to continue pursuing it as much. And podcasting is just as fun in terms of just sitting around shit talking. But so I've been a Rogan fan. I was in an MMA class, at a kids karate place, but they had MMA at night. This is in Cleveland, Ohio. I moved to LA. I've already heard Eddie on the Rogan podcast a couple times. Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo saying like, just do jujitsu. It's like it's as dangerous as a game of pickup basketball. And I'm a soft boy. I'm definitely the kinder, gentler side of the BJJ community. I'm gonna speak from Michael Plaster and myself. I don't know if it's gonna whatever, but like Michael Plaster, who does a lot of the production for Eddie Bravo for like the behind whatever. I feel like him and I are aligned in that we are the dudes who are going to be at open mats. We're going to be at the jiu-jitsu at the park, the jiu-jitsu at the beach. Not that any of that's been legal in a while. But I'm not in like the competitive scene, but I feel like I mostly talk about it with my friends and family. And I feel like from like a sort of little herb, little yoga lifestyle, that's like, feel like where I come in, and I feel like that's what. So I moved to LA. I immediately signed up at 10th Planet HQ. That's back when it's at Legends. Yes. And we have the whole thing where the reason they moved from Legends was because of, what's that shit called? Asbestos. Okay, so asbestos. Yes. We go to Burbank. I sprained my ankle rolling with Marvin Castell. Marvin Castell, blue belt. I'm a white belt. He's a blue belt. He might have still been a white belt. Fuck, I don't remember. This is 2012. So I sprained my ankle. I realize it's bad. I stop at Ralph's, corner of Western and Hollywood. I buy some chocolate milk. I head to my apartment, and that's when I realize it's really, really bad. So I'm out for a while. I come back. We've moved to Burbank because of the asbestos at Legend. I go there. I immediately get ringworm right on the palm of my hand, like right after. So I stopped training for a while.
It had nothing to do with the gym.
So I'm like, I should probably focus on my acting and shit. So that's like basically 2013 is mostly when that happens. And then January 2014, I'm like, I'm going to go back to, acting's cool, but I want to roll. I want to fucking roll. I've not done it in a while. I bought some kettlebells, all that kind of lifestyle-y stuff, but I was like, I want to roll. Re-enroll at HQ. It's now at the downtown location, tap out.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Do that a couple of years. We move across the street. Jeff and I start running into each other at the 6:30 in the morning class. So in my time at 10th Planet HQ, I have been a regular in almost every class. Like the Robert Rodriguez and George Yarigi wrestling class, and then Eddie's advanced class, Scott Ross's beginners class, then Eddie's 8:30 p.m. class. Then in 2018 and early 2019, I was kind of like going to his day class and taking a long lunch. Not as good for work as I thought it would be. But so Now I'm in I go to Abdulaziz, his 6 to 7:30 advanced class. I'll do whatever. They've closed the Friday class because of probably the pandemic and stuff like that. I'll go to whatever Saturday class. But anyway, so I run into Jeff Hacker at the 6:30 a.m. class, but I was trying to do that for a while. That's Jeff's main class. And we get to talking. Then months later, I run into him drunkenly at Ren Fair. And, oh, cool. That's cool. My girl and I were in a little bit of a fight. And I went there by myself. And then I told her, no, we're good. Just come out and meet me. So I was there by myself for a while. I run into Jeff while she was on her way, and I was kind of near the entrance. Oh, this guy's cool. He's like, yeah, we go to Ren Fair every year. Okay, cool. Then on the night that I got promoted to purple belt, we're at belt promotions, and we start talking, and it turns out he has always worked, or for a long time worked in the industry that I entered into. I kind of got invited to co-run a software company. Wasn't my background. It's sort of an ongoing challenge. And he's like, oh, I do coaching. And I've been kind of the role that you are, trying to sell to. I'm kind of your ideal customer in a way. But why don't I teach you, how to work with people like me? So we've been working in that capacity. I randomly, I'm one day I'm have you ever heard of Dune? He's like, yeah, you got to read Dune. I'm like, I will read Dune. And then so I'm reading it, and he's like, we should record conversations about it. And then it mushroomed into now it's not just recording, conversations on Zoom and, whatever, hoping our wives listen to it. It's now it's a podcast. We got a producer. We got no one's wife wants to listen to your podcast.
Mine doesn't listen to this.
No, they don't care.
No, she does. She does.
But she does? Oh, that's
yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, when she's like, "Oh, that was a good one," I'm like, "Okay, this works," right? And she's just like, "Oh, that's when I know I went too deep in the weeds to jiu-jitsu pro wrestling shit."
Yeah. So anyway, so we have a logo, we have a Libsyn, and now we have a podcast. And that's my lengthy diatribe did not involve talking about Dune at all. I'll let Jeff kind of jump into what's up with Dune and why. And I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Take it away, Jeff.
Everything Mike said, and then that's it. So Mike's one of my like favorite people. I just got to tell you, our interaction. So I think about the way we met. I think a little bit differently. Like, of course, I remember all the things that he said, but I really know Mike from the way that he interacts and behaves with social media. And it's like beautiful and messy and confusing. So Mike would be in these, like, we'd be having some conversations or whatever, or I'd be like trying to solicit agreement, and then the response would be in all caps, sex. And I'm like, I mean, I'm old, right? It's so I looked at my wife. I'd be like, is this what the kids are saying now? Like, what does this mean? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, I can't tell about this kid, but I really like him. And that's kind of how it went, right? So when we started talking about Dune, I already knew that he was a Tolkien fan, and I knew that he took it seriously. And so when he talked about reading Dune, I was like, yeah, well, we should just do it, because there's a lot you can do with Tolkien, for sure, because he created a lot. Frank Herbert, the author of the first few books in the Dune series, he showed up like a reporter. So the way that he writes, he didn't really do a lot of exposition or create this world. He just jumps right in it and starts describing it. So it lends itself to analysis in a different way. Tolkien, a lot of analysis you can do, even Tolkien scholarship. But it's rooted really in what Tolkien wrote and what Tolkien thought and in what he said.
Mm-hmm.
But not that you can't interpret what you read on your own, but that's where the bulk of the scholarship is. With Herbert, you're kind of seeing the world, at least the way he wrote it. It's as if he just showed up and he starts describing it. I was telling Mike when I was a young man, and the movie came out, the David Lynch film. We rented it on videotape. And inside of the videotape cassette holder, nobody on your show is going to know what that is. It's a way that people in the 1830s consumed digital media. That's pretty much all they need to know. inside.
I saw a meme on Instagram. Someone saying, "What the fuck is burning a CD?" Like, did you like? Because anyway, yeah.
That was my high school years, motherfuckers.
It's a weird. It's a weird term when you think about it.
Burn it, yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's a festival like Burning Man, which is weirder.
Oh, yeah, like Burning Man. I thought it was like... Go ahead. It's either Burning Man or it's people who hate free thought and then they just burn CDs, right? You make a pile. Disco maybe? Yeah. Disco CDs? No? No, okay.
No. All right, I threw you off, though. They came with the...
We were going to do the book.
No, you were talking about when you got the VHS.
Yeah, it came with a glossary. It came with a glossary. So you open up the VHS box, and inside it was like fairly thick. So it's all the language, all the words that you would need, because David Lynch didn't bother explaining them either. So there's all this language that he brings into the world, but he doesn't do a lot of exposition in the moment. Doesn't tell you what's going on. Right. You can flip back to the glossary or you can look to secondary sources, but he kind of just expects you to roll with it. So analysis has to come after, I think, the first reading or two, which makes it a challenge for most people. So most people bail after the first book, right? But I knew Mike would probably be in it to win it, and I knew the conversations would be hilarious, but also deep. Like Mike is willing to go as deep or as wide.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo. That's real. And there aren't a lot of people who are willing to go with me in both those directions. But Mike is very patient with me. And he just makes a great partner in this kind of thing. He's just willing to hang in there.
Yeah, get weird.
Even my wife, who loves me, is not often willing to do.
Yeah. I think
that's how we got here.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning because so Dune. There was a 1980. So let's talk about Dune as its own cultural phenomenon. So first and foremost, it was written. So it's a series of books. 6 were written by the original author, and then he passed away. His son kind of took on the mantle of the notes of what his father allegedly wanted to accomplish. But it was published. The first book was published in 1965. It was one of the first books that really kind of talked about ecology in sort of there are consequences for not taking care of the environment way. So it and Tolkien, as Jeff mentioned, or Jeff was talking about Tolkien. So like Lord of the Rings and Dune really became these very, very popular counterculture totems. So like I was born in 1981, right? So Dune was around. The movie came out when I was just barely, I was still like a toddler, right? But so you had this entire,
just to give you some perspective.
What'd you say?
I said I was born in 1881, just to give some.
Oh, yeah. So I also have a theory that Jeff read Dune in like 1980, 1981, 1982 as a teenager, as people will read those kind of transformative books as teenagers, and I feel like you have such a deep knowledge of it because. Whereas I picked it up this past summer at the beginning, or last April at the beginning of the pandemic, I think this information has been kind of rattling around in your brain, where as you've revisited it, you're like, there was something really interesting about that book. And of course, we should mention, Star Wars stole all kinds of shit from Dune. So this is like a well-known, well-documented thing. Frank Herbert, the author of Dune, was like, I'm really trying not to sue over it, but it's getting more and more difficult because just the number of things that started kind of adding up were just like, man, like I would have liked to have made he did make a movie, but when he was asked this in 1978, it's like, I would have liked to have made a movie too. But the desert, the interplanetary travel. But we should all make a movie. We should all make a lot of money. It's like.
No, I meant that literally no one asked Herbert no one invited him to that party, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just the similarities from sort of the equivalent to, the Bene Gesserit way to the Jedi mind trick, the Bene Gesserit voice to the Jedi mind trick, to Tatooine basically being Arrakis, to Luke basically being arguably, well, I guess Luke would be considered more like Leto the Second. Well, who is Luke in the comparison? Is he Leto the Second, or is he Paul, who's going to be played by Timothée Chalamet in the upcoming movie? By the way, part of what's going on here is there's going to be a huge movie coming out with basically the biggest stars in cinema right now. Jason Momoa, obviously famous for Game of Thrones originally, you could say, and then obviously he's Aquaman. He's
Baywatch?
Yeah, Baywatch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Timothée Chalamet, I guess all the girls love him. He's a dreamy young man. I don't know. But he's good, good actor to be a coming of age tale kind of thing. My man Oscar Isaac, who I think is one of the best actors out there. Obviously, he was in Star Wars as well, so I don't a little double dipping into the franchise ink pot. So part of the reason we're talking about it is that it's going to be it's Dune is in a weird place where it's like kind of mainstream, but kind of not. It's not mainstream yet, but it will be. So, Adam Woods, everyone who's listening, y'all are going to be talking about this in January of next year, right? We're in, like, imagine talking about Game of Thrones season 1. I knew 5 people who watched it. By the time the show ended, my Facebook feed was just all, of course, mostly trashing it. But, before they trashed it, the anticipation of what was going to happen. I've been talking too much. I want to stop. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So, so we got together to read the books, and we decided to kind of do it, to have the conversations live. So we read through the first couple of books, and then we started the podcast. So we backtracked a little bit. That gave Mike a chance to get familiar with the content.
Yeah.
And then we just plow right through. Most of the conversations, I walk away from the recording not feeling like we're talking about the books very much, but Mike does a very good job of keeping us like connected to the source material.
Yeah.
And I think my job is to drive us off every cliff that I see.
Yeah.
Which I gotta ask Jeff, like, as somebody, I guess it's a two-parter, right? For somebody that has gone through the first wave of Herbert's work and seeing it in its essence, right? Not like a vintage kind of harken back to whatever. You were there, right? And then now we're kind of at this point where it's going to be the biggest thing since sliced fucking bread, right? Like, how do you feel about it? Are there any kind of worries that his source material is going to be fucking just like fucking PC'd out and whatever, and it's not going to live to what you feel is Dune in your imagination and your understanding?
Well, it's a great question. That's a great question. I'm not. It is not my nature to be a gatekeeper.
No.
So I'm not super worried. I understand it though. Like, I see what's happened with the Star Wars franchise, which I still enjoy. Like Rogue One, just an amazing film, great story. So if it takes all the kind of weirdness to get those to have one of those little gems pop out, I think it's okay. I think people are going to connect with it how they connect with it. I'll tell you that there's a common thread that I've seen in terms of people who have read it though, and you can tell when it has impacted somebody, because there's this in the first book. Paul recites this Bene Gesserit like meditation called the Litany Against Fear, and everyone who read the book, no matter when they read it, they all remember that. It's very powerful, and it's transformational. I think when you appreciate it. So what I hope is that people connect with those pieces of real transformational knowledge that Herbert sort of put out there. There are problems with the world that he created. There is beauty in that world. I mean, he did a good job. I think, similar to Tolkien, he created a world where both good and bad exist, and it's not super clear cut. You have to do some perspective taking, and I think that that's healthy for people. So I hope I hope there's stuff that makes people that gets there. I hope it doesn't get so washed out that people can't interact with some of the difficult content, because there are ideas in there that are a little bit difficult to wrestle with.
You're right.
Alia, for one.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's so yeah. So I hope that it's good. There's not just a movie. There's also a TV series that's coming out, and I'm very excited for that. That's the Sisterhood, and it will focus on the Bene Gesserit, who are the most fascinating from my perspective. Everybody loves the Fremen. They're cool. They're the warrior dudes. They're awesome knife fighters with cool hair, and they're awesome. There's a ton to think about there, but the Bene Gesserit really have a lot of power, and have expanded through that universe in interesting ways. And they're similar to the Jedi in this sense. They're as bad as the Jedi are, and the Jedi are pretty bad. I was reading something last night where people were like, you should take the perspective of blah 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 from the perspective of the they wanted people to take the perspective of Emperor Palpatine in order to see why the Jedi were bad. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You just have to look straight up at what their mission is, and then you see that they're awful. Right? As soon as it became a thing about something that can be measured in your blood, like literally the whole fucking thing went right off the rails. I'm glad that it did, because it's bananas. But when I tell my, like, I remember the first time I told my son, oh, do you like this? And he's like, oh, I love it. And I'm like, have you figured out that the Jedi are Nazis yet? And poor little face. Like,
holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's real, right? If they're taking blood tests to figure out whether you're in the club or out of the club, there's some fucked up shit going on in there. Yeah. So the Bene Gesserit are similar. They control who can create and who cannot. So if you're a fan of the Old Testament, you're playing God. Right? It's the central concern of Christian theology. Like who can you put your wiener in and who can't you, and whose foreskins do you collect and whose do you not. And that's the Bene Gesserit's job in a nutshell, right?
To maintain the genetic composition of maintain the genetic composition of the ruling elite and decide kind of which, I mean, basically it's a breeding program that's like who has the right stuff to continue on down the line, right?
The thing that makes them really fascinating to me, and the thing that makes the first Dune novel, which is really 3 books, but we don't have to get into the nerd part of that. The thing that I really love about our early introduction to the Bene Gesserit is that the mix of the Fremen and the Bene Gesserit training just produces really amazing fighters. And I love this idea, because what's happening under the hood, and I think you'll really appreciate this, is the idea that if you get some control over yourself, emotionally and physically, then you can dominate. And you can dominate in a couple of different ways. Physically, you can fight better, but also you can control people's sense of time and spatial awareness. These things are true, right? Like military forces can do it, and individuals can do it. And so I like that it's accessible. This is what I liked about young Luke Skywalker too. The idea that anyone could become a Jedi. It was sort of beautiful and open. Of course, the dirty underbelly of both of these books is that no, not just anybody. There's some controlling going on in the background, but to the extent that it is democratized, that anyone has access to it, it's just beautiful. So in the Dune novels, they talk about breath work and body work, and when I think about Hicks and Gracie. Right.
I want to jump in. So so I don't know with the whole COVID situation whether we're dropping locations of places we're training and who we're training with and all that shit. But let's just say
it's not a thing that someone would do.
Wait, what?
That would be bad, wouldn't it? You don't want to get.
Well,
Gavin
I don't know. I don't know how public
Only
places.
give the gym out if Gavin Newsom. If Gavin Newsom trains at the gym, you can say the gym name.
Yeah, right. So let's just say I was at a location that had an open mat on Friday night, and it was very exciting. I was at a theoretical place allegedly training on Friday night, and I want to bring this back to. Oh, it was I want to bring this back to Jeff. Your point about that if you're conscious of yourself, that you can. Sorry, you were talking about the Bene Gesserit training mixed with the Fremen training, the weirding way. Okay.
Sort of breath training, his yoga training. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I was in a moment where I was rolling with the guy, and I mean, I can make excuses. Because remember, I'm on the soft to gentle side of the jiu-jitsu community. So it's after 8 p.m. It's after 8 p.m. I didn't eat a big enough lunch, right? I haven't trained on a Friday night in a long time. So there's a lot of factors. Are me being
all
like
valid reasons to lose a jiu-jitsu role.
But I didn't. What I'm trying to get at is I have this guy. This guy is fast. He's fast. He's got really good passing. He's really giving me a run for my money. But I'm in side control. I am in side control of him, or I'm holding him down in my side control. There we go. That's the right way to talk about it. But where I'm going with this story is I have this moment where it's like someone else was in charge of my brain up until I got to that point. Whoa. And then as I was in side control going, what do you like? You don't have to rush this. What? You don't have to like really desperately try to get this Darce choke you're working on. You have, whether it's, time, you're in a dominant position. You have really good body weight control. You are holding him down. He's not going to escape. And I'm not the most technical player. I'm not going to use the right terms or whatever. A comment is I think Jeff thinks about his jiu-jitsu a lot more than I do. I think I just mostly go and do it. And then I think about how could I get another day of training in this week or whatever. But I don't really think about it a lot, for better or for worse. But what I'm going with this idea of being mindful in your training is I literally am like, I feel that if I would have just been like, you got to a good position, now you must go for this submission. That's like the rules you're playing with. I probably would have lost the position, but instead my mind allowed me to just slow down and take my time with the position. And ultimately, so I guess that's probably the art at its best or at my best at the moment. And I think that's kind of what the concepts that the characters in this book talk about doing. I think a lot of people, when we talk about spazzy white belts or whatever, is not slowing down to take the moment but I do it too. Like I feel like I'm in these. What's up?
I want to take a minute to plug my upcoming jiu-jitsu DVD. It's called Systematically Spazzing in Everybody's Guard. I'm gonna cover waving your arms around, kicking wildly, the seizure, which is my favorite side control escape.
Yeah. Or the wicked farts.
It sounds like you've got your side control down, but
the wicked farts that happen, when somebody's got neon belly and shit.
Yeah. The neon belly.
Is that there? Yeah. Is that there? Please tell me it's there, Jeff. Please.
Oh yeah.
Bonus chapter.
Bonus chapter on how to. Well, anyway.
But anyway, my point was that I became aware. I became self-aware, like the machines. I became self-aware of my rolling. This was the third or fourth round of the night, and I was like, who was this other person rolling these other? I don't know if they were 6-minute rounds or 7. I don't know what they were, but three solid rounds. This I think was the fourth round, and it was like who was the person who was rolling before that, and then who is this new person who is currently really thinking about the situation they're in. So I know that's my rambling story.
Whoa, but okay, so and here's somebody that isn't as familiar with Dune and the concept as well, but like you could even make an argument like, is it oh, drillers make killers, and that kind of adage of like being just in kind of flow state, their free flow state, and what have you? Or is it, oh fuck, we're maybe in simulation, and that's what was happening the fucking 3 rounds before, like, I was in the fucking headspace where I was in control of my space, time, and body, and where I'm at. Like,
yes, I think that's right. I mean, I think one of the central themes in the book is the benefits and detriments of foreknowledge or prescience, right? If you knew what was going to happen, what would you do? What could you do? Mm-hmm. And if you've ever been in an expert black belt's clutches, you'll know you can know exactly what they're going to do, and it might not help. So,
right.
But what does help is control of yourself, your executive functioning, control of your breathing. Those things way more important, and they're very difficult to teach. So I love that. I love any form, media, movie, book, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the idea gets in you. It's just that you receive the idea that what is really meant by transformation, what's really meant by self-mastery is so subtle. When people say like that, so the power is within you, or like even on the Christian side, the kingdom of heaven is within you. They are not joking. Like the path to whatever it is that you want to do. And I don't mean like, let's all just manifest things, but I mean, mm-hmm. if you want to take something seriously and you want to move forward in it, and it's at all difficult, mm-hmm. It's yourself that you have to master to get there. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot, Mike and I, and I think about self-defense quite a bit. And I've talked to a lot of people about it, and everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone, but the common response I get is people will tell me their control fantasies. I'm gonna kick them in the ghoulies. I'm gonna poke them in the eye, like thumb in the ear. Like that's these are the things I'm gonna do, and that's gonna be my fight ender. Mm-hmm. And when I think about having to participate in violence, which sometimes living in LA, sometimes you have to think about it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. None of those things come to mind. What I'm thinking about is how's my breathing, right? Has the adrenaline dump already happened? Like mm-hmm. where, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get a sense of where I am in space and time. I am for sure thinking about the other person, but in a very different way. I'm an old purple belt, right? So I don't want people to get any illusions that I'm some fucking Tai Chi master. Maybe I do. I don't know, Mike. What's good for our brand?
Workshop the branding. Yeah. Workshop.
Oh yeah. Okay. I was Tai Chi master. But when I teach, especially like standing grappling, or when they have the opportunity to talk to somebody who doesn't know, I'm constantly telling them to focus on the chest of the opponent. I really I don't want to get involved with the minutia. We talked about Tim Cartmel. He was on our show. Tim talks about point versus plane quite a bit. And what mm-hmm. he means is if I can put up a shield that's going to block 1,000 arrows, that is a much better strategy than trying to pluck individual arrows out of the air. Right. Mm. And the way that applies to how what I can control in whether it's a jiu-jitsu round or any other situation where people might have to put their hands on each other, all that I can control is me. And if I can't get that under control, there's really no way I can, other than like dumb luck, which mm-hmm. is always possible.
Yes.
There's no way I can control another person.
I'm wondering, Jeff, if this is like, so I'll just throw myself under the bus and admit, I have been to a tournament where the adrenaline dump happened before I even started, and then got tapped out to something that I easily would have not had a problem with. And when no one, I don't particularly love being watched is a general thing with my. I'm not I'm not here to be a superstar. I like the idea of a closed room gym where people are just rolling, keep it in the room, whatever. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, you could film around. I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying is I don't love the idea of the circle of people watching and that kind of thing. I'm not in it for the fame or whatever. Where I'm going with this is that spot that I have definitely had a moment where the adrenaline dump happened and then I got submitted for something that would have not been a problem in a different situation. Where does this translate to violence and whatever? You'd be surprised what little you would do in that street fight if you actually are already, like basically all the stuff you were saying. That's the ramification of it is if you think that you're going to do these heroic acts and then you actually have a fight, flight, or freeze situation and you freeze, none of that's going to happen.
That's right.
But you can prevent the fight, flight, or freeze, or you could take control of it when it kind of comes on is maybe also the thing here.
You can. I mean, so yeah, I mean, let's be clear. Like it's not as if we can stop our bodies from doing the things that they do naturally.
Yeah,
but we can get a perspective on what's happening, and we can use that perspective to alter how we respond.
You might not go for a double leg if you know you have no energy. You might make a different decision, right? Mm-hmm. You might try to climb a fence and get away from it.
Well, more specifically, the guy who's like brake checking me or flipping me off on the freeway, I'm not even concerned about it. There's no version of that where I'm going to fight with that guy. There's no version of it. So it's inconsequential to me what he does. There are other situations where it could actually be dangerous, and then it's different. So I do have control over that adrenaline dump in the sense that I can recognize what is and is not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And with some practice, you can get better at that to the point where the adrenaline can become your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So initially, when it comes on and you have no control, you get it's testosterone, it's cortisol, it's like these stress hormones, and you're like fucking bananas. And it takes 4 to 8 hours for that hangover to go away. Yeah, there's no way under the influence of those chemicals that I can do anything. Mm-hmm. This is what most white belts learn if they don't quit. Right. Right. That really sucked. I hated everything about that. That fucking hurt. That dude was all over me. I didn't like the way he was touching me. Mm-hmm. And if they come back, they're like, oh, I could actually breathe for a second here. I don't have to tap to that pressure. I can survive a little longer, and maybe I have a move of my own I can pull off now. And that just expands more and more with experience and attention. Yeah. I don't know why I'm telling you. You straight up beat people up in a ring. So you tell me if that's real.
Yeah. I want to say two things. One, Jeff, just piggybacking off of what you just said, which is, I think I posted on Facebook. It must have been sometime in 2019. Who was it I was rolling with? It might have been Donna Bedian, or it was.
We're naming names, are we?
That's fine. I mean, he's a 10th Planet black belt, and he teaches a class. He
and a beautiful.
I mean, he's a great guy. Yeah. I feel like I reflected on being. He got me in an RNC. But I feel like I put up a pretty good fight for a couple minutes, and I was like, really, the edge of your jiu-jitsu abilities are, as they translate to your real life, as just a layman, right, who works for a software company, are, holy shit, you can probably survive in these bad positions longer than you actually think if you calm yourself down and go, I am in a bad spot, and any wrong move could be a problem, but I'm actually fine where I'm at right here, right now. So I should be very calculated in the little micro motions of my body. Actually, I'm going to say three things now that I think about it. Okay, so that's one thing. That's one thing.
Oh, shit, he's got a list. Here we go.
I got a list. Okay, so the second, because ultimately I'm sure we'd love to actually have a couple people check out our podcast from this conversation. So we are called Decode Dune. You can find us on all of the places. We have a Facebook community. But yeah, we're on Amazon Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Decode Dune. I want to mention this where, Adam, to answer your question about the Bene Gesserit training, and the Fremen training. In an episode, I think 6 or 7, if you want to check out these episodes, I really break down the definition of what they call the Prana Bindu training and what's called the Weirding Way. So check out that episode for more details. And then the Tim Cartmel bonus episode, which we released to the public just to see if it was of interest. That's where we really got a lot of knowledge about the type of training you would do in a harsh environment like Dune. And, be conservative of your hydration. We got a lot of a knowledge of knife fighting and sort of the norms you would see in any culture that does hand-to-hand knife combat, for anywhere from Ireland to Chechnya to Saudi Arabia to South Africa, wherever it is. It's all going to be kind of the same general tenets of that. The third is, Jeff, I create a list and I stick to it. So
I love it. Yeah. Keep us grounded.
The thing you mentioned a couple seconds ago was that if you have an adrenaline rush, you're fucked for 4 to 8 hours. Yeah. I really want to bring back another reason to check out our podcast is, so Jeff, I'm gonna.
Is this something you can do while you're fucking full of cortisol and testosterone?
No,
while you're all mad, you might as well be listening to our podcast.
No. I'm reminded of the fact that, Jeff, you are an executive leadership coach, right? So a growing part of what you get when you listen to our podcast is not just the combat talk. It's not just the story of Dune and how it compares to Star Wars. A lot of it is Jeff, because a lot of the book is focused around people in leadership positions making critical decisions about live or die, and obviously we can make analogies towards businesses. These are live or die decisions you'll make as a CEO or a CTO or whatever. Jeff's got a lot of experience coaching CEOs.
Let's be careful here. Jocko Willink, also a leadership coach.
Okay.
Has real experience with real life and death shit.
Okay.
I'm on a different tier.
Business.
Yeah. I don't look. First of all, Jocko, we're not competing.
Yeah.
You're amazing, and I have found your work to be very helpful in my own. I just know some things that tech nerds need to know, and I try to help people who lead in that space. All the rest of the world where they're making the big decisions, that's your territory.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just speaking directly.
Caveat. Okay.
To Caveat right now.
Smart move. No, put a disclaimer.
Huge fan.
I just wanted to say we are getting feedback from people that are saying this stuff is useful to listen to in my career as managing a restaurant, or in my career as working with a team of people in the back office of a orthopedic surgery clinic. I got 6 people working under me. I got motivation problems. I got team cohesion problems. I got people above me saying different things than the other people above me.
Yeah.
So I was just reminded of that because you actually spoke at my company's conference in 2019, and you mentioned if you have a culture at your company where people are allowed to say assholey things that provoke adrenaline, right? Like conflict type behavior. Yeah. Basically, your entire workforce is going to be fucking shot. You're not going to have people who are, if you have someone who's about to get into a fight in the boardroom, they're not going to go and write a really essential email to a critical client that's going to be well-rounded and end up. So I'm just plugging our podcast here. There's a lot of cool shit.
Grab that ring, Mike.
It's good for work. It's good for jiu-jitsu. It's good for making fun of Star Wars or, talking about comic book heroes or talking about Lord of the Rings or whatever. So those are my 3 points. And I'm
I'm literally less worried about Jocko Willink getting mad at me than I am at the whole Star Wars franchise chasing me down. I feel like they would just straight up murder us if they could.
Yeah.
We're not really kind to that franchise, I don't think.
Well, I mean, the backlash. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Mike, you just basically made a 3-point stance. That's what you did. 10 points. Right on. I was reading about podcasts for that.
There you go. 3. Yeah.
I feel like we need a Brazilian to watch him for a second, look at his phone, and then raise the 3-point. Good job.
Oh, because up north in Mexico, Tres Puntos is something completely different.
Why? What is it? What's that? What's
it's
that about?
A gang. It's like a big Mexican, I don't know how. I'm not sure about my international like cartels and shit, but like Tres Puntos is like some bad motherfuckers.
Oh, there's some bad hombres. Okay.
Bad asses. So
if they need leadership coaching, I'm their man. I just want to
let's say you're running a cartel and you're trying to build a crew. You're doing interviews, trying to get a sense of whether they're going to fit into the organization once.
You want to know what that Guzman fellow did wrong? Come spend time with me. I will help you.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
No, but I love Jeff that you mentioned that Jocko Willink like kind of comparison and not to whatever. Like I'm the same way with like David Goggins. Like most people are like, oh, 8 fucking podcasts a week and whatever. And I'm like, I look at David Goggins whose feet look like hooves, and I'm like, I don't want that fucking heat.
No. Exactly. Yeah. He'd knock out 8 podcasts and simultaneously do 10,000 push-ups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to say, like, that's I'm joking a little bit, but we've mentioned Jocko on the podcast before. Jocko knows what his understanding of leadership very different.
Yeah.
Very different. It's born of real life experiences that are very different. So my experiences are mainly around communication. It's just to put it back in Mike's terms, it's the soft part of this. I think that for sure Jocko has that as well, but he's seen the world in a very different way than I have. And it's very important to me that if he thinks of me at all, it's that he thinks of me nicely. Do not want that man to be upset in the slightest. Anyway, so you fight.
Which one?
Right?
Me?
You? Yeah.
No, I'm a shit white belt. Interviews more badass people than me, right? Where it's just like I might be like kind of bad. Like I grew up in Inglewood sounding like this, and I survived, which is nothing short of a miracle or lack thereof, depending on what deity that you kind of alms bear to, But it's like Fijian descent here, African descendant of slaves on my dad's side and whatever, and spoke with a tinge of accent through Inglewood and managed to not get shot. So, I mean, if you want to say like that's a badass, that's awesome. But I'm also the guy that hid in the trash can while the drive-bys are going on. So, just saying.
Survival skills.
Yes,
I salute you. Yeah, that's like the ghillie suit of Inglewood, right?
Like what? Not now, because that shit is gentrified as all shit.
No, what's a ghillie suit?
A ghillie suit. Yeah, now Jocko's really gonna be mad at me. A ghillie suit is what the snipers wear. It's like it's the
leaves and shit. Okay, yeah.
So if I was in Inglewood and I had to hide, I would fucking pull the dumpster over.
Yeah. Well, so let's flip it.
You.
Yeah, let's. So Adam, what? Let's turn it back to you real quick. What? So I've been watching your show
on your own podcast. I've been watching your show for a long time. You get a lot of cool guests from a lot of different walks of life, and obviously I think you mentioned, I think it was before we actually started recording, you were saying you are aware that you are viewed as kind of close to the culture of wrestling or pro wrestling, submission grappling, and MMA, but that you're looking to branch out as well. But you also have had some pretty cool guests. What's kind of the master plan? Like what? Because you're very, very busy, right? I've seen your upload schedule or whatever, like the schedule of events. It's like there's a lot happening,
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like I'm very happy like with where it's gone, and in terms of, so here's kind of my deal for those who don't know, right? So I remember being at a corporate tech company in Bakersfield, probably mid 2010s, right? And probably at that point, for a high school graduate of Inglewood High, probably I fucking bucked the system. I have a corporate job making the best money that I made up until that point, corner office that I shared and everything like that, but fucking miserable. The only thing that kind of kept me sane during this, and again, my parents had right around the time, within a couple of years of this happening, passed away, and I was just kind of like fucking figuring it out and living in Bakersfield in Central California. And I'm like, I grew up in LA and different places, and I really wasn't acclimated to that, right? But I would listen to, much like you guys, like Rogan's podcast and Joey Diaz's podcast and whatever. And I was like, if I get back to LA, I'm going to fucking do the thing that I'm passionate about. Out in Bakersfield, one of the reasons that kind of, again, kept me sane beyond those podcasts that I listened to, that you could do working a corporate job and whatever versus like working as a department manager at Lowe's Home Improvement or whatever. Like, I was just like, if I get back there, I'm going to fucking really hammer it into what I want to do. I would hear Rogan and Diaz talk about like the Ice House and like, oh, from there, like whatever. And this burgeoning MMA scene and go ahead.
I was going to say it's been a year because of the pandemic, but you used to broadcast live from a lot of events. Like, I mean, I would see you'd be at like 3 or 4 things a week, and they'd all be at like, obviously like 7 to 11 p.m. And I'd be like, this guy's got a lot of energy, getting out there. I mean, it's like one of them is in Encino, smokers or MMA events. Yeah. One is in Encino, one is in Covina, one is in, I don't know, maybe you went as far as Santa Barbara or something. But you were like with the mic, kind of interviewing people after fights, interviewing, people in plain clothes who were fighters but were just there to watch. Do you plan on getting kind of back to that kind of stuff as well as the events kind of reopen?
So I don't know about like the in-person stuff at all. Like my wife, she ended up, unfortunately getting COVID, but fortunately, not. Being the disastrous results of like a lot of other people, right? So so I don't know how I feel, and Mike, me, Mike and I were friends on Facebook first, and we're just like whatever. And the first time we actually saw each other, like we fucking hugged. We're just like, I love you and whatever, and I'm the hugger and shit like that. Yeah. But I'm fucking way more cautious and like. And then the kind of auspices of like getting a Bellator MMA or WWE credential or UFC credential, media pass and everything. Those are looking like way more less appealing to me because I can do an hour from the comfort of my home, wherever the fighter or person, moreover, is comfortable in, and get an hour versus, basically being in contention of like literally 40 other fucking people that want to get the same 3 minutes or 30 seconds of sound
red carpet style.
Fuck that. I want the story, and that's always been the case. It's like, like even starting out in my journey in my career, it was like I started out, with a gentleman, Bosun Wang, who was actually at the old like post tap out, right? It was just HQ when you guys had moved across the street, and Joel was there and what have you, and getting to know him and whatever, and he was doing videography on The Amazing Race, and he was like, I can shoot shit like as good as Embedded, and I was like, oh, cool. At the time, I was training at Fight Academy at Pasadena, and Heinrich Osmer was getting ready for a fight, and then at the same time, Joel from HQ.
Is Joel the guy who owns the clothing brand YTAP Let's Fight, or is that
yes?
He was okay, yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So and then at the same time that was happening, right, and kind of like coordinating Heinrich stuff. Joel was like, "Hey, here's Daniel Rodriguez. He might be the last dragon of like this gym." The Phoenix out of the ashes, right? And he's done great things.
Oh, yeah. Career. I mean, he's about to fight fucking Mike
Perry.
Mike Perry, yeah. Killer UFC debut, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we did about 12. I want to say 12 like promo videos, like 2 of Daniel, 1 of Heinrich, Thor Skanky, like just a bunch of them talks with like Combate Americas to come in as their to help their production team, all this stuff. And then it like the person that we were talking to at Combate got fired, as well as a time where Boostin had to move away from LA. So here I am. I've got credentials through Combate, and I was just like, fuck it. I want to interview. That's kind of been my deal. I'm an old school kind of, when I graduated from high school, I went to radio school out in Huntington Beach, took the bus 4 hours each way from Inglewood to Huntington Beach, and did the thing, right? And then I've also got this lineage on my mom's side where my maternal grandfather was the very first Fijian-born broadcaster in the country's history, right? So, here's a time where, like, my parents passed away, discovered jiu-jitsu, all this stuff, and then wanting to get back to LA, right? So I meet Moosin, we do these things, it falls apart. Then around the same time, I kind of fell into this Facebook Live version of the podcast with Marcos Bonilla, 2 Guys, 1 Phone, and you could look it up on the Facebook. Right? And then that happened, and Marcos was still trying to fight and get his business affairs in order, so that stopped. And then I went to basically interviewing people at events and stuff like that, right? And it's so crazy because all of that stuff, like 4 years and whatever, ending up like homeless at one point. That was how we got back to LA and everything. And then now people don't even know me from any of that. They know me from this thing that I've only been doing since July.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
Oh shit. Well, I mean, these are real. I mean, these are fucking awesome stories that, I mean, we should have you as a guest and switch it over. And I mean, you just told some really interesting stuff. I mean, that's definitely stuff worth making sure, people know more about, that's definitely what's also really interesting, because I mentioned Michael Plaster before, is just the people who get into BJJ and then find their calling or put the connection to their calling through the network of, like, so Jeff and I meeting through HQ, both in the podcast sense and in the fact that we're both in tech. Plaster, I remember before he got kind of hired, like, I remember he was doing, like, probably right around when he got his first kind of real gig with Eddie, was sort of like maybe doing one video or whatever, and now he's just the guy who does the mastering the system stuff or whatever. So it's just really interesting to see people find or connect their calling to the training and stuff. So
which one of the two of you can take Plaster, by the way?
Not me. I heard he's
Mike, you got him?
I don't talk about, I don't know.
I heard his fucking rubber guard is deceiving.
I want to see what you can do.
I've enjoyed rolling with him.
I'm teasing. He's such a sweet dude. I can't even imagine him rolling.
Yeah, everyone has gotten so. I didn't train for a while during the pandemic, right? Yep. Everyone had to make their decisions, and obviously people had to make the decisions as families. And I didn't train from July to.
My wife doesn't listen. Yeah, some people didn't make very good choices.
Yeah, so I didn't train for a while, and I'm just, so many people have gotten so good that it's like I feel like I'm starting over. Which is probably, it's a compliment. It's a compliment to them ultimately. Is there's a lot of people who are really on their grind and doing really great, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta up my game.
Yeah, I'm the role you want to duck.
I do, because I don't want to go at 6:30 in the morning. I don't want to go at 6:30. I'll see you in the afternoon.
This is the genius way. This is the Benny Gesserit way of fighting. Fight at 6:30 in the morning. Ain't nobody wants to fight you unless they really are serious.
Yeah.
And then it's worth it, right? Yeah. Because nobody wants to get up that early.
Yeah. So yeah.
No. I love.
Are you really a white belt?
Yeah. So here's the deal. So I started out at Matt Baker or Bakersfield Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's now True Jitsu, right? And I was actually there the day that Jill, Matt Baker's wife, got her black belt under John Jacques Machado. So they were essentially husband and wife black belts under John Jacques, right? And I did 6 months. Like, I fucking plopped down the money, put a part of my tax return, plopped it down 6 months, and then did it, whatever. And then right around the same time as the 6 months was ending, concurrently at my job where I'm basically taking jiu-jitsu lunches with somebody that worked in the company that was a blue belt under Matt. It was just like, here was these two kind of things like cataclysmically colliding, right? So then I had to move out of Bakersfield, had to, whatever, and didn't train for 2 years, right? And I was only doing gi, John Jacques Machado, lineage and everything.
Yeah.
Then I got to Fight
That's
Academy.
an outfit some people wear, I understand. I'm not...
Yeah, I know,
Can you
right?
explain more about that? Some pajamas that you put on.
Yes. So, and I
or it's
only
clarified butter. Is
Yes.
it clarified butter wrestling? Is that? Anyway, I've heard about it. It's pretty cool. That's what I heard.
Right. So here's the thing, I do have one gi, right? And it's the Elio 100. And it's literally,
Nice.
I was like, I'm starting my jiu-jitsu journey on the commemoration of Helio's 100th year in jiu-jitsu, theoretically.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's pretty auspicious. And I'm a big fan
I feel like
of
I
his.
could take that guy.
Yeah, now, yeah, fuck yeah. 100% you could.
I'm all over it. Think I can get a super fight?
Super fight, like you, and like I get to see you like worm guarding like Elio Gracie's like Gravel fucking plot or whatever. Like I won.
That was very dark. Also, why worm guard? But I love it. But also
Keenan.
Yeah.
Yes,
Keenan, that's right. Shout out to Keenan.
Yes.
I guess you were. Anyway, go ahead. Now Henry Gracie's gonna come kick my ass.
Oh no, I don't want anybody to get heat, is what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I'm fucking, oh god.
Well,
Anyway,
it's an occupational hazard being me.
there you go. I like it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
basically,
Bring it, Hannah.
don't G and G me, Jeff. Don't G and G me.
All right, so you were explaining. So what you trained for 6 months.
6 months, didn't do it for another 2 years, right?
You got the Helio commemorative gi.
Yeah, and that happened, in my initial training and what have you. Then didn't train for 2 years, ended up at Fight Academy, right? And then here's a whole new world. I used to kind of thumb my nose at people with like no gi, like, oh, you're disrespectful, whatever. But I also got into like grappling because of pro wrestling. Like that was it. Like the Harts, like Bret Hart, Owen Hart, who unfortunately passed away, right? That was it. And as badass as they were, look at Stu, their father, who's an old school catch wrestler on the prairies of Canada, right? And had 12 kids. His sons all became wrestlers or referees. All of the daughters married wrestlers. And then, but Stu was the most badass of them all, would stretch you out in a dungeon where he trained wrestlers and would stretch the hell out of, football players and bodybuilders. And think about what the archetype of what a tough person was. And fucking Stu stretched them all and made him say uncle. And that's like, holy shit. And even one time of the year when they had the Calgary Stampede in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where he fucking choked out a bear. So as a kid, I'm all like, wait, I can fucking choke out a bear? When my parents were telling me, like, and we lived in San Francisco at the time in a Victorian apartment building, and they were like, hey, don't get close to the window. Don't be like Superman or whatever. But, like, I can fucking choke out not just my fucking Teddy Ruxpin, but an actual fucking bear. Sign me the fuck up. That was me at, like, 6.
Yeah.
And it took me, like, literally 26 years to get there. But
would you key lock the bear before you choked him out, though? You would,
I
right?
would. I would.
Exactly.
I kind of goad him with
You'd make that bear experience some pain.
I would goad him in a fucking bear trap. I know Peter's going to love this. This is amazing. But a picnic basket, rat trap inside, and then, oh fuck! I sounded like the former president's children on their hunting excursions. Jesus.
Oh boy.
I didn't know what was going here, but yeah. So then, after being at Fight Academy, a whole new world opened up, and whatever. And then I haven't trained consistently for like 4 years, and I was Well, go ahead.
Which one's Pasadena Fight Academy? Is that Josh Vyas?
No, that's Savant Young.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, John Obedient's friends with him, and I don't know.
So Fight Academy in Pasadena, which that was a cool deal because like that ushered me into like the helping out with the promo stuff and knowing people that actually fought and whatever, and then it was just like I've been trained for 4 years, was literally got the funds to go and train because I feel a kinship with the 10 Planet family. You guys have always been amazing, right? right?
Always.
And,
yeah.
yes,
We will heart you right back.
yes. That's
That's the first place. That's the first place we met was at the holiday parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And shout out. Yeah, exactly. And shout out to
The
Donna.
holiday parties are the shit.
Yeah, shout out to Donna and Becky of Matt Therapy, because that was one of the podcasts along with Rogan when I was trying to figure out my life. And when I got back to LA, I wanted to be a part of the scene, right?
Yeah.
And I would listen to them, and I would be like, especially like right after my mom died, that was my only remaining parent, and like hearing these fucking cool stories of gals that were fucking in it and whatever, and and it was a cool full circle moment before. Daniel Rodriguez's fight for Bellator, which again is when we moved to LA, we were living in Inglewood. I'm an Inglewood High School graduate. So at the Forum, right, is a Bellator, and it sells out. And then one of my friends, Daniel Rodriguez, who had been there, not from the jump, but we did this video for him, and he's fighting there. And right before it, he is basically a guest on Matt Therapy. At the last time Becky and Donna filmed Matt Therapy at Joey Diaz's old studio. So again, full circle moment where here I am doing the thing, and I'm literally watching Donna, Becky, and Lee like from the couch. Yeah. Like, and these are people and whatever that got me through this fucking dark time. And that was like at the beginning of my fucking career.
Yeah.
Isn't Donna the best? Donna is the best.
Yes, she is.
Matt Therapy threw the biggest, baddest BJJ at the beach that I've been to like 4 BJJ at the beaches. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. BJJ at the beach, whatever. Theirs was the biggest. Drink. Like they had like 4 different styles of mats. So there was like this section, and it was all under this like kind of canopy tarp thing. It was, but there was like 50 people there. It was pretty fucking. I mean, those are the good old days. I mean, I'm looking forward to stuff like that returning, but like 2016, 2017, 2018 jiu-jitsu was the absolute best. And now, it's still awesome, but for me, it's like such a grind to get there and get the training I want in. The idea of returning to a Saturday afternoon at the beach and like an event, being able to do it would be much, much appreciated. I'm just talking to the sky at this point, putting it out there into the universe.
Yeah. Hopefully the sky can cure the COVID, right? But then there are a litany of other legions of belief systems that also feel the same way, or might even deny the whole thing. Period.
I just want to say that after I got my shot, my cell phone reception improved. It's unbelievable. The Wi-Fi in the house so much better. And when I'm confused, I hear Bill Gates. He just literally talks to me, and then I'm not confused anymore.
But what about the bats, though,
some of
Jeff?
the benefits.
What about the bats, though? The radioactive bats? Like, those are cool, too, right?
Well, I can eat them now.
10
they
points.
were off the menu for a minute, but now, like pangolin, bat, it's all on the menu again.
10 points. I love that.
I would like to eat a pangolin, actually. I don't know about bat. The bat soup doesn't look appealing, but I would eat a pangolin.
Good tasting and good for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, how would you
should know I'm a bad vegan. So
yeah,
you're a bad vegan. Okay,
I'm a vegan like Harvey Keitel was a cop in The Bad Lieutenant. But I try. But I try.
So I mean, what if a theoretical penguin came to the domicile of one Mike Goulas, right? And
a theoretical penguin or penguin?
Penguin. Yeah, penguin. Oh, was it penguin or penguin?
Penguin.
Oh,
they're different, but probably also delicious.
Like what?
I would eat.
The pangolin looks like a little armadillo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cute.
I would make it a stew. I would a savory stew, like a potato pangolin curry stew.
Because it'd be a little tough, right? You gotta loosen it up. Whereas a penguin,
I don't think it has enough meat to make a real cut. Like it's not like you wouldn't get like a breast. I don't think. I think it would be more, like kind of like almost like a carnitas, right, or like a pulled pork.
But a penguin would be like having two huge. It would just be the breast, right, and then the two giant legs. It'd be like those turkey legs at the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah. That I'd have all of it.
But either one. So a theoretical penguin and a pangolin show up at Mike's house.
Yeah.
And what's the question, Adam? What happens?
How would you prepare it? But I think we got Renaissance Fair.
The Renaissance Fair turkey leg with the penguin and a curry potato stew with the pangolin.
With your homemade meat, I think, right?
Homemade meat.
Like
hopefully that
meat.
Yeah. Hopefully that meat is thoroughly beaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got to get as soon as COVID has done its thing and we're back, or as soon as everyone gets their shots, we should definitely get together to do some training.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because you guys are where I want to be. You guys are purple belts, right? And 10 planet purple belts. Like I was actually.
Everyone in jiu-jitsu wants to be a purple belt, but you know what? It's hard work.
It is hard work, but you know why?
It is a legit goal.
Why is that, Adam? Why do you want to be a purple belt?
Naga?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the heel hooks.
Yeah.
No.
Wait, can you heel hook at white belt, or is that? Oh wait.
No. It's
yes,
not even
I can.
that.
I will gladly.
See, seeing
you don't even have to pay me, Mike. I'll do it.
Wait. Yeah. Wait. You can or wait. You do unlock heel hooks at Naga in purple belt, or I thought that they're legal all the time in Naga.
I don't know that.
I don't think so.
The only reason why I wanted to compete at Naga because I grew up a fucking pro wrestling fan. You get a belt. Metal is cool, bro. If you want to be a fucking Jesse Owens and what have you.
Yeah.
Fuck all that shit. I want a belt so I can fucking Bret Hart and be like, So that's my deal. Yeah, and even like the sword.
If you win that belt, does Josh Barnett come to your house and hang out with you for a day, or like?
I hope so because he hasn't yet. Even though I've gotten a lot of Josh is amazing, but hopefully
he's a great guy.
I think I might have gone hey, are we best friends now? That you sent me everybody from Bloodsport? We should be. So we're working on it.
Just between you and me, you think I could take him?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. He'd lock the shit out of me.
Yeah, and it's
I took a picture
it'll
with
be a
him,
toe hold.
and it hurt.
He'd fuck you up with a heel hook or some shit and call it a toe hold and be like, "What's?"
we were at a tournament together in somewhere in Orange County, somewhere down south, and I was so excited. I fucking love that guy, right? And I'm like, oh god, okay, I gotta get a picture. And he wasn't into it. So Josh, if you're listening, thank you. Made my day. It was also very clear that you really didn't want to do it. But you were
wait, did you get the photo and he just didn't look into it, or did he decline the photo?
He was sort of pressed into service. I would say
cost
is the way to say it.
The cost of being a celebrity is having to take photos that you don't really want to take.
Yeah. I feel like my entire head would fit in the palm of that man's hand.
Yeah.
He is a Viking. He's a fucking Viking, that guy. Oh, God. Yeah. And MJ, do you have a Barnett story? Because
I have a Barnett story. He was lifting weights at HQ in the weight room, and I went up to him and was like, "Hey, man, do you like the band Skeleton Witch?" And he was like, "I do." And I was like, "I'm from Ohio." And he's like, "That's where they're from." And I was like, "Yeah." That was pretty much the extent of the story.
I love it.
But no, we talked about metal. I don't know if he's still dating. What is her name? I don't even. Were they dating at all? No. But she used to fight. MMA. Yeah. Schneider, the thoroughbred, was her fight.
Colleen. Yeah.
I fanboyed hard. I ran into her at the Amon Amarth concert at the Wiltern.
Yes.
I had smoked a little. I had a couple giant beers, and I was like, "Hey, fucking! I saw you at BJJ in the park. You fucking armbarred the one girl after a pretty sick catch wrestling match." And she was, That was, this is why LA is great, right? People are moving to Texas. Have fun. LA is fucking awesome. It's forever. It's when COVID's over, just as many more people are going to move here. The awesome stuff's always going to be. I mean, I love other places. I love my native Cleveland. I daydream of living in a place with weather like the Pacific Northwest because I like the rain. But LA just has all of the like random sort of. It's its own universe. That it's all kind of here and it's all happening at all times.
I agree. Yeah. Which, and I kind of like my Barnett story. So I think I know for sure. So it was at like a Combate Americas weigh-in, right? And he had one of his students, I want to say it was Alyssa Garcia, was fighting, or somebody from Ian Harris's Fight Science, right? And I was in the back of the room, just kind of like whatever, and I was like, there's this dude that has Dickies, Chucks, and this like Harajuku like bunny, but the bunny was like, think of like Iron Maiden, the classic Iron Maiden with Eddie fucking shirt. Yeah. But it was the fucking Harajuku, anime bunny in place of Eddie, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna ask this dude like where he got this thing, and this is my deal. That was like my fucking uniform in high school: Dickies, Chucks, and fucking rock shirt, right? Yeah. And then he gets up because he's sitting. He gets up and just happens to look like towards the back, and it's fucking Barnett, and I'm like, again, my world's colliding. It's like. Yeah. Fucking pro wrestling. He's an IWGP champion. Shayna Baszler's like whatever, and then fucking combat sports. He's a former UFC champion.
Youngest ever. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yes. So all of this is colliding, right? So then he goes, and I think it might have been Alyssa who she just fucking weighed in and wanted to get something to eat, and I was just like, I go fucking fanboy to Barnett, and I'm like, hey, can you take a picture? And like literally. Fucking toss my phone to Alyssa, right? And I was like, hey, how is it like to train under Antonio Inoki and Billy Robinson, the great catch wrestler Billy Robinson? Right. And there was a considerable pause. Now, it might have been 2 seconds, it might have been 8 seconds, but in my head, the shit, like everything, like time just seemed elongated. And he goes, and I think, oh fuck, I just pissed off the War Master, right? Yeah. And then he goes, nobody's ever asked me that. And he fucking puts his, and we do take the fucking picture. And it was just like, great. Yeah, he's been just tremendous, been on the podcast. And yeah, it's fun. And that's the other thing, right? Like, it's weird, like in a place with influencers and like not just a physical place, but where we are in the world, right? Where influencers kind of take precedence and whatever, right? I get to like, I'm on a first name basis with Barnett or Boss Rutan knows who I am. And it went from being like, hey, can we get a picture or interview to like, oh, Woods, we're fucking doing an interview, right? And it's like, the fuck, right?
Well, yeah, right. Because you're I mean, the phrase people use in business is a known quantity, right? Which in this case means quality, right? It's they know, okay, this is where I can go and get the good information out. A good audience is going to hear it. It's not going to be distorted or whatever the hell. You're a great interviewer. Yeah, dude, that's building your empire here of what you're trying to do. So yeah, I mean these relationships will just continue to, and they'll, probably introduce you to people along the way. Someone will bring, next time you interview Barnett, maybe he'll be training someone. Maybe he'll bring, I'm just spitballing here. He'll bring someone he's training, his protege. But 3 years from now, that protege will be a champion of some sort, right? Or he'll be a big shot at depending on what direction they go, like a submission wrestling direction or an MMA direct, whatever it is, but there'll be a known name in whatever endeavor they're pursuing, and then you're gonna have been friends with them from the beginning, right? So that you're shortlisted for the automatic interview with them for whatever the hell happened, whatever title defending fighter or whatever. So,
well, that's I mean, not to say that's the goal, right? But like for me, again, as somebody that grew up all over the place, right? Born in San Francisco, we were in Fiji for a bit, Indiana, Las Vegas, New Mexico, Georgia, and then finally Inglewood. After all of those experiences, and dropping into Inglewood in '95, where fucking you couldn't. I remember not being able to wear a Sonic the Hedgehog shirt because, hey, it has blue in it. I might get shot, and we live in a red neighborhood, knowing nothing of it, right? And then now, I had always felt like an aardvark, a fucking like a leper in terms of like, not Fiji enough, not Islander enough, or not American black enough, or whatever, right? So the one time that I finally feel like I feel a part of a community is the one fucking community that I always wanted to be in since I was literally in fucking diapers, in like the combat sports. And it's fucking weird.
I mean, there's people of all walks of life, right? I mean, that seems to be the unifying thing, is there's every kind of person is on the mats or in the ring or sparring room, whatever you want to call it, right? People of all sorts, and everyone has their own story, and people have their own level of participation. Like when I was talking about the good old days, part of it is just changes in my life, right? Where, trying to get as much training in as I want while also meeting my business goals, right? And my business goals are challenging enough, and then so are my training goals, and trying to make them both work is frankly really challenging. And well, the difference between then and now is I was a little bit less focused on my business goals. I was younger. I had different things going on in life, and I'm like, trying to make it all work a little bit more now. I digress, but it was just an awesome time training all the time. And I see that. Of course, age is a factor. I'm like basically 40 years old at this point, right? But you see people who, I see the guys who are, it doesn't have to be an age thing, of course, but, it depends on your situation. But I definitely see guys who are in their 20s who like 6 to 7:30 Abdulaziz's advanced class at HQ. I don't know if they just hang out for the beginner's class or they switch the Rashis and go to that, but then they stay for Eddie Bravo's class 8:30 to 10, and then rolling is 10 to 10:30. Like I used to do that, and it's just the having the time, like that many hours marked off the board where you're not fixing this fucking shit that's broken at the house or talking to the plumber or whatever. It's just an awesome lifestyle, right? So anyway, no.
Yeah, no, I no, but that's the thing. And that's where like and it's funny because I was actually, I think it was March 7th where I was just like, I'm in a place like, occupation wise and whatever, where I could fucking go train again. And March 7th, I made the decree. I'm going to fucking 10 Planet Pasadena, right? With Raimi, and Capella,
my old roommate George teaches the wrestling class there. George Arregui.
Oh yes, I love George.
Yeah, I don't know if he's also. I haven't talked to him in a minute. I don't because I think they're going to Palmdale as well. What's interesting is people are franchising multiple 10th planets, like the Orange County. Sorry, I interrupted you. The Orange County guys are now have like 5 of their own.
Right.
10th Planet Orange. All same ownership under the 10th Planet name, or like DSU, Epstein, his real Epstein, I think is Einstein Epstein, right? He kind of like subletted his name DSU to Nico Radic, so out in Colorado. So it's 10th. Anyway, that's very interesting. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. So Pasadena, yeah.
No, what is George doing?
He's a EMT, but he teaches. He taught wrestling on Monday and Wednesday with Rodriguez for a long time at HQ, and then Luis Quinones started training again after I guess a couple of years off before he even lived in LA or before any of us knew him. But he showed up at HQ with a very high pedigree of wrestling. So then George and Luis taught together, and why is Rodriguez's first name slipping my mind? Robert. Robert. Yeah. Robert basically is the HQ. I don't know if it's still HQ fight team, but he's like the 10th Planet fight team. So he's got he's like Danny. He's like Danny's coach. And then there's some other people on that roster as well. But anyway, so yeah, I think he stepped away from coaching just wrestling for that. But anyway, so George teaches definitely like the kids wrestling, maybe the kids jiu-jitsu, and then adult wrestling. And I know that the adult wrestling is like Sundays. But yeah, he was my roommate for like 4 years. But yeah, he switched from HQ to Pasadena when it opened. Because him and Ramey were tight, and obviously it was a good opportunity to start. But so yeah, yeah.
That's I love Georgia. It's like you,
small world.
Yeah, it's and that's even the credit that I give to Donna and Becky, because like they really look out for me. Like, and I would even say like Rafa Sparzer too. Like they really like made sure like. Not only that I was included, right? Like technically, I am not a 10 Planet member, but have been going to the parties for the last couple of years, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, and when I finally was like, I'm gonna earn my stripes, like fuck, I'm gonna earn my place at the party. The party fucking is over. It's fucking canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, but again, the fact that, and you guys kind of highlighted it, where, it not only do you and you guys connect with, the grappling aspect of everything, but you also like, here's Dune, like, and here's another facet, and Renaissance Fair, like these are so many things, like I kind of. There was a time in Two Guys One Phone where like it was Marcos and I, and we had Patereon Flash Ware like right before he got signed to the UFC. I had just came and won the CXF title, avenged his loss over Jared Papazian, and won the bantamweight title and whatever. And then like I was just like, it worked so like I've worked so hard just to get here, like the wrestling and MMA tip and whatever. Yeah. And the first, when Patereon gets here, fucking brings the belts and all the belts that he's won, so it would be a cool visual on camera. And then they go into fucking Marvel and shit like that. And I'm all like, holy fuck, like you guys, like I wish I could work hard enough to fucking be where you guys are in terms of your fight, jiu-jitsu, acumen. And then all of this other shit, like what the fuck? I never felt more inferior than I did at that moment. And it still kind of happened. So, like, you guys, you and Jeff, knowing that you guys have this other connection just beyond Renaissance Fair and Jiu-Jitsu. And, and now it's Dune. Like, and this is where it lends itself really well to the podcast, because I didn't know where the dynamic happened and the synergy happened, but, like, it's there. And now it's funny because, like, Decode Dune, well, I feel like I've like decoded the kind of symbiotic relationship that goes into this project.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess, I do, unfortunately, being a work day for me, I do have to go in a second. But I guess a thing to think about is, well, first off, because I mentioned Michael Plaster before. Have you had him on? I've seen him out of nowhere. No. I invite him on because he's been doing more podcast stuff, and he's probably got a lot of really cool stories from being close to Eddie, but he's also got a lot of I think he got into filming from, I don't know if it was like directing music videos or working with people in the visual arts, but yeah, he's got a lot of like interesting background in, being just like a filmmaker. So if you want to pivot towards from, in addition to the combat stuff, arts and entertainment and whatever, it's a good community to start out with, because there's a lot of people who have these other things. Dude, I didn't even know Jeff was in tech. That was my point. I didn't know Jeff was in technology, for like 2 years of knowing him, because a lot of times at the gym you don't necessarily always get into like what is it you spend the rest of your time doing or worrying about. So, but you and I should talk more and think about doing some other stuff, like who else you want to talk to, and what like the topics would, what kind of stuff you want to get into.
Well, I'm not a good poker guy, so I'm gonna go show my cards. Fucking everyone, just yeah. Which, by the way, before we get out of here, obviously there's been a lot of people that have kind of influence you and Jeff and this podcast endeavor, both professionally and personally. So let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Okay, shout outs. So, all right. So you mean like just in jiu-jitsu or just all of life?
Everything.
All right. So, I mean, of course it's like Rogan doesn't need my shout out, right? But like, sure, Rogan, Dan Carlin. I mean, I'm just going to list stuff I liked. Rogan, Dan Carlin, Duncan Trussell, Patrick Wyman, the host of Tides of History podcast. I listen to that all the time. There's another podcast I listen to called The Monster Professor. Brace Belden and Liz Franchek at True Anon podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's why I'm fucking probably started to want to do one. Chapo Trap House. I already said True Anon. Guy called the Monster Professor who does sort of talks a lot about just different monsters or different supernatural things as they've appeared in literature. Quinn from Quinn's Ideas. He's actually the guy why I started reading Dune, because this guy made supplementary like Game of Thrones content that I was listening to a lot before the last season, because I was like kind of waiting for it. And this guy's got like a cool voice, like good narration. He started talking about Dune because that's the point. Everyone wants to have a couple things. You don't just want to be on the one track. You want to be Dune and the Foundation series. You want to be MMA, jiu-jitsu, and politics, or like MMA, jiu-jitsu, and the Marvel scene or whatever it is, or all of it. Who else? That's kind of, I'll say shout out to my wife Linda. And
congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. First year of that. Well, technically, so we had to cancel our family event because of the COVID. It was going to be right when it started, and we had a whole themed thing. So we're probably just going to end up I don't even know, going to the courthouse and then doing a separate family thing later. It's just I know multiple people have been in the same situation. It's a bummer because all kinds of shit got canceled. So anyway, so that's kind of, I'd say that's in terms of my cultural tip. Who's on my mind? And Lindsay Ellis, she does a YouTube channel. She talks about movies and she talks a lot about movies and stuff like that. So anyway, that's kind of, I think, about my shout out list. And then of course, you for having me.
Dude, you and Jeff are just amazing. I love the podcast. And I didn't know too much about it until knowing you guys were going to be on. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to go to deep dive. So I'm going to do. And Don McGuire says diversity is key. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if people want to diversify their portfolio in terms of their podcast listenership and what have you, and patronage, if you will, where can they find you, more about you, Decode podcast, everything? Yeah.
So we have a community on Facebook. So there's more interaction. People talk about other books and that kind of stuff. So it's Decode Dune. It's a group. But then in terms of actually listening to us, we're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. We have a YouTube channel. Audible, Amazon podcasts, a bunch of it goes kind of everywhere. That's Decode Dune, or just look up Decode Dune. We're also on Patreon. If people do have a couple bucks a month and they want to throw, we all of our stuff is free, but we want to start doing more bonus stuff. But if you like what you hear and want to just be supportive, patreon.com, and that is Decode Dune Podcast. So it's a little bit of a different title, but if you go to our Instagram, Decode Dune, the link's right there. So we have social, we have the Facebook group, and then my name is actually Mike Goulis, but you can find me if you find the podcast. So, that's where we're at. So
hell yes. So Mike, thank you for joining us. We're gonna thank Jeff. I know he had to split, but
I bet his phone died. Yeah.
That might happen too. Which is irony because he was in a Tesla. We're going to mention Tesla. Yeah. And it's an electric car, but the electricity in his phone gave out. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. But, Mike, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, dude. Let's do it again.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, if you guys haven't already, since you're subscribing and everything like that, subscribe to that podcast, but definitely subscribe here too, because it's not nepotism if I want myself to succeed. So, I mean, Mike, you're subscribed to the According to Woods podcast, right?
Of course I am. All the places, the YouTube, the Facebook.
Yeah, and that's
also,
it.
yeah,
So,
real quick, I noticed it. So you have this is like a more of a Facebook joint. Like you do live Facebook and upload to YouTube. This isn't live YouTube, right?
no, it's live YouTube. It's live YouTube.
Oh, it's live everywhere.
All three places:
okay.
Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube.
I see you live on Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
And then I see uploaded videos on YouTube. So I don't know if it's because I don't check YouTube during the day, but I see you're live on Facebook a lot of the times. So
yeah, it should kind of whatever, but then sometimes like when you end, it takes a bit for YouTube to kind of rasterize or whatever. So after so it's a thing. But
yeah. Well, I was just saying Facebook's great because everyone's on it all day, on and off all day. They check in. Oh, I'm live. Let me watch, put it on my headphones and, do my accounts receivable emails or whatever the fuck. So,
damn
all
right.
Well,
thank you
so much.
Thank you guys for joining us here and subscribe to the podcast. But if you don't believe our word for it, here's Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to